Hey everybody, I wanted to talk to you about my grading policies here in Chem 3343, specifically as it adheres to your final exam and your in-class exams. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of provide you all with a hypothetical scenario that you can kind of look at. So specifically what I would like to talk to you about is what you can expect from your exams. Okay, so you will have a grade that is made up of the following components. Your homework and your quizzes is 10% of your grade. Exam 1, exam 2, exam 3, and your final are all 18%. And the project that we will do in this class is also 18%. Okay, so let's look at a student and let's see a traditional grading style. Let's say the student got 90% on homework number 1. They got a 50 on their first exam. Let's say they got a 60 on their second exam and a 80 on their third exam. The final exam, they got a 80 on it, and then on their project, they got a 90. Sorry. Okay, so what would that mean whenever you weigh these different components? Okay, so what I'm going to do is multiply their scores based on the percentages. Okay, so that 90% times 0.1, that would be a 9. Okay. Exam 1, 50 times 0.18 would be a 9. 60 times 0.18 is going to be a 10.8. And 80 times 0.18 is going to be a 14.4. Their final exam in 80 times 0.18, 80 times 0.18 is going to be a 14.4, and then that 90 that they got on their project is going to be a 16.2. So if you add this up, this is out of 100 points. 9 plus 9 plus 10.8 plus 14.4 plus 14.4 plus 16.2. This student ends up with a 73.8, which that's going to be a C. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically use what I would refer to as, or what a friend of mine referred to as redemption points. Now, the way that these redemption points work out is as follows. There are some things that are not going to change. The homework, that's not going to change. Your final exam, that is not going to change. Your project score, that is not going to change. So I'm going to put a little star by these as nothing's going to happen to these. Okay. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at your final exam, and your final exam is going to be basically, since it's cumulative, it's going to have 3 different parts to it. An exam 1 part, an exam 2 part, and an exam 3 part. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at what percent of the information from exam 1, exam 2, and exam 3 did you get correct. So let's say that on the exam 1 material, you got a 95 on the final exam. Then for exam 2, let's say you got a 55. Exam 3, let's say that's information that you really studied very hard, you got a 90 on that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these different grades and I'm going to compare them to your first 3 exam grades. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that 50 and eliminate that. And I'm going to replace it with a 95. Okay. Exam 2 material. You did better on your initial exam, so I'm not going to change that grade. Exam 3, you did better on the final exam. So what I'm going to do is look at these point totals and I'm going to say, okay, well, what are my percentages? 95 times 0.18 is 17.1. Okay. 90 times 0.18 is 16.2. Okay, so no longer am I counting that 9 and that 14.4, but instead I'm counting this 17.1 and these 16.2s. So let's go ahead and add that up. 9 plus 17.1 plus 16.2 plus 10.8 plus 14.4 plus 16.2. So when you look at all of those numbers, now all of a sudden your grade has gone from a 73.8 to an 83.7. This is a B. Okay, so this is your opportunity, and the purpose for this is whenever you take an exam, I really want you to look back at that exam. I really want you to study that material and be able to say, at the time the final exam rolls around, I want you to be able to say, you know, the exam 1 material I didn't do particularly well on. I really need to study it. For example, your amino acid structures. I needed to know my amino acid structures. Or, I'm sorry, sugar structures. Exam 2, well, or you know, I'm going to study that, but maybe what happens is you don't study it as well as you did or you wanted, but the thing is, I'm not going to penalize you for that. You know, the 55 effectively that you got on that, that's just going to have an impact on your final exam grade. Now, with all of that said, your final exam is absolutely mandatory. It is going to be, it is a grade to itself, but it can also bring up your other grades, your exam 1, exam 2, and exam 3 grades. So I hope this clarifies with some real numbers here what you can do to improve your grade whenever you take that final exam. Now, again, I want to stress that this is not something where your final exam is optional. Your final exam is absolutely mandatory. But yeah, so just don't make that mistake of thinking, oh, well, I did well on the first 3 exams. The final exam is a grade unto itself. I hope this is helpful. I hope this clarifies any confusion related to the grading strategy. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me or drop by my office during my office hours, and I'd be happy to discuss it with you. Well, thank you very much. Have a good one.